every night, you do something extraordinary. You lie down, you close your eyes, and you willingly let go of the world. You surrender your awareness. You release your grip on the day. You allow your body to become completely still and completely vulnerable in the dark. From a pure survival standpoint, this makes very little sense. For 8 hours, you cannot run. You cannot see what is coming. You cannot protect yourself. And yet, you do it anyway. Every single night of your life. Sleep is not a weakness. It is not laziness. It is not wasted time. Sleep is an ancient, non-negotiable, biological law. It is older than memory, older than language, older than the first human thought that was ever thought beneath the stars. Every creature on this earth yields to the dark. The whale, the wolf, the hummingbird, the bee, even the tree outside your window is resting right now. I know why you're here. You've been carrying something today. Maybe it was heavy. Maybe it was just relentless. The kind of tiredness that lives not just in the body, but somewhere behind the eyes. And so here you are, lying down, trying to let it go. I want you to know something important. Your brain already knows how to do this. You do not need to force sleep. You do not need to try. The trying is the only thing ever standing in the way. What your body wants right now is simply permission. Permission to slow down. Permission to soften. Permission to stop solving things for just a little while. So tonight, that is exactly what we're going to do. We are not going to do anything. We are just going to be here, together, in the quiet. And I am going to softly narrate the journey your mind is already beginning to take. Because right now, something is already happening inside you. Something slow. Something ancient. Something that has been happening to human beings in the dark for hundreds of thousands of years. I've always found that thought deeply comforting. That every person who has ever lived has lain down in the dark just like this. Has felt their breathing slow just like this. Has felt the world begin to soften just like this. You are in very good company tonight. Let the heavy, slow waves of sleep begin to pull you under. We're going to explore something beautiful while they do. Let's begin at the beginning. Not at the beginning of tonight, but at the beginning of everything. Long before the first human being ever closed their eyes, before the first animal drew a slow, sleeping breath, there was a planet spinning in the dark. The Earth turns once every 24 hours. As it turns, one side faces the sun. The other side faces the dark. And life, all life, evolved inside that rhythm. Light and dark. Light and dark. A pulse as old as the planet itself. And here is the astonishing part. That pulse is inside you right now. Every single cell in your body contains its own microscopic clock. Not just your brain. Not just your heart. Every cell. A set of genes ticking in a roughly 24-hour cycle, completely independent of the brain above them. Your liver knows what time it is. Your kidneys know what time it is. The cells lining your stomach the ones repairing the skin on the back of your hand, they all know what time it is. You are not a body with a clock. You are a body made of clocks. Scientists call this the circadian rhythm. The word comes from the Latin circa diem, meaning around a day. It is elegant in its simplicity. The earth turns, the light changes, and the body follows. There is a remarkable experiment that illustrates just how deep this rhythm runs. Imagine being sealed inside a cave. No windows, no clocks, no daylight, no one to tell you whether it is morning or midnight. You might expect your sense of time to dissolve entirely, to lose the thread of day and night within hours. But it doesn't. Even without a single cue from the outside world, the body continues to create its own day and night. It grows sleepy at roughly the same time each cycle. It grows alert again, on schedule, as if the sun were still moving overhead. The rhythm drifts slightly. It runs a little long, closer to 24.2 hours than 24. Without sunlight to correct it each morning, your body's day would slowly, gently drift later and later. But the rhythm never disappears. It is written into you at a level far deeper than memory, far deeper than habit. Deep inside your brain, in a region called the hypothalamus, there is a structure so small it could sit on the tip of your finger with room to spare. It contains only 20,000 neurons. To put that in perspective, your entire brain contains roughly 86 billion neurons. This tiny cluster, this grain of rice-sized handful of cells, is less than 1,000% of that number. And yet it conducts the entire orchestra of your body's daily rhythm. It is called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. And every morning, the moment light enters your eyes, it receives a signal. It adjusts its tempo. It updates the clocks. I find something deeply settling about that. The idea that there is a conductor inside each of us, quietly keeping time, without us ever having to ask it to. The suprachiasmatic nucleus watches the light. And when the light begins to fade, it sends a message downward. To a small, ancient, pine cone-shaped gland nestled near the center of the brain. The pineal gland. The 17th century philosopher René Descartes believed the pineal gland was the seat of the soul, the meeting point between the physical body and the conscious mind. He was not entirely wrong to sense that something significant lived there. Because when darkness falls, the pineal gland releases melatonin. And melatonin is the whisper that begins everything. Melatonin does not cause sleep directly. It is not a switch. It is more like a softly spoken announcement. Darkness has arrived. The day is ending. You may begin. Melatonin levels in the blood are 10 times higher at night than during the day. 10 times. It rises slowly through the evening, peaking somewhere in the deep middle of the night, and then fading gently as dawn approaches. And here is something worth knowing on those nights when sleep feels distant. Melatonin production can be suppressed by as little as 8 lux of light. 8 lux. That is roughly the brightness of a dimly lit hallway. A screen across a dark room. A lamp left on in the kitchen. The body is listening so carefully for darkness that even the softest glow can delay the signal. which means the darkness you're in right now is not nothing. It is not just the absence of light. It is an active ingredient. It is the beginning of the chemistry of sleep. Blue light, the wavelength that pours most strongly from screens, is the most potent suppressor of melatonin. Around 480 nanometers on the light spectrum. That particular shade of blue is almost identical to the color of the sky at noon. So when we look at a screen late at night, we are telling our bodies, with great biological conviction, that it is midday, that the sun is overhead, that sleep is hours away. But you're not looking at a screen right now. You're here, in the dark. The melatonin is already rising. Something else is already happening to your body, and has been for the last hour or two, whether you noticed it or not. Your temperature is falling. Not dramatically. Not enough to feel cold. Just a slow, quiet, half-a-degree descent. Your body begins dropping its core temperature about 2 hours before sleep arrives. The blood vessels in your hands and feet widen slightly, releasing heat from the skin, cooling the interior. This is why warm feet can help you fall asleep faster. The body is trying to lose heat through the extremities. Warm socks, a warm bath before bed, they accelerate that process. They help the body cool down from the outside in. And the lowest point of your core temperature, the deepest cold your body reaches in any given day, arrives at around 4 in the morning. Regardless of when you go to sleep. Regardless of what time zone you live in. For in the morning, the coldest, quietest, stillest point of the human day, there is something almost ceremonial about the temperature drop. The body preparing itself, lowering its energy use, reducing the metabolic cost of simply being alive, so that the resources freed can be used for something more important. Repair, memory, renewal. Sleep is expensive. It requires a great deal of precise biological work. And so the body, wisely, lowers the heating bill first. Think about what this means, for a moment. The Earth is spinning right now. Beneath you. Around an axis tilted 23.5 degrees toward the stars. Moving at roughly 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. And your body, your nervous system, your hormones, your temperature, are all synchronized to that spin. Not approximately synchronized. Not loosely in rhythm with it. Precisely synchronized. Your internal clock and the rotation of the planet agree with each other to within minutes. You are, in a very literal sense, an extension of the Earth's movement through space. Life did not adapt to the planet's rhythm from the outside. Life grew into it, from the very beginning. The rhythm of the turning Earth is woven into the chemistry of every living thing that has ever existed on this world. It is in the algae drifting below the surface of the ocean. It is in the fungi spreading through the dark soil of the forest floor. It is in the migratory birds feeling the season shift in their bones. It is in the flowers that open in the morning and close at dusk. And it is in you, lying here, right now. Your liver knows it is night. It is already adjusting its detoxification schedule, preparing to do the quiet work that it prefers to do in the dark. Your kidneys are slowing their filtration rate, which is why you are unlikely to need to get up in the hours ahead. Your gut is settling, its movements slowing, the long, patient work of digestion winding down, the intestinal lining beginning the quiet process of repairing itself. Your heart is preparing for its deepest rest. Heart rate falling. Blood pressure beginning its long, slow decline toward the lowest point it will reach all day. Your entire body is coordinating. Every organ, every cell, every molecular clock inside you, reading the same signal from the same ancient source. Darkness has come. It is time. There is a detail about sleep that I have always found particularly beautiful. For most of human history, people did not sleep the way we sleep now. The idea of sleeping in one long, unbroken block from roughly 10 at night until 6 or 7 in the morning is surprisingly modern. It seems to have emerged alongside artificial lighting, which extended our usable evening hours and compressed our sleep into a single consolidated window. But before that, for the vast majority of human history, sleep came in two parts. A first sleep that began shortly after darkness fell. A period of deep, restorative rest lasting 3 or 4 hours. Then, a quiet waking. An hour or so of gentle consciousness in the middle of the night. Reading, or thinking, or simply lying still in the dark. And then, a second sleep. Another long stretch of rest that carried through until dawn. Historical records from medieval Europe are full of references to first sleep and second sleep, mentioned so casually, so unremarkably, that it was clearly just the normal shape of a night. Which means, if you sometimes wake in the middle of the night and find it difficult to fall straight back to sleep, you are not broken. You are not suffering from insomnia. You may simply be a person whose body remembers the old rhythm. The two-part night. The way humans slept for thousands of years, before we taught the dark to glow. Here is another thought worth carrying into sleep with you. Your circadian rhythm, the one guiding you right now, did not begin at birth. Fetuses in the womb begin developing a circadian rhythm at around the 3rd trimester. They sleep and wake in cycles. They move more at certain times of day and grow still at others. They receive their timing cues not from light, but from their mother. From her melatonin crossing the placenta in the dark. From her temperature rising and falling. From the rhythm of her heartbeat, which they have been listening to since they were smaller than a walnut. Your body's relationship with the rhythm of the earth began before you had eyes to see the light. And when you were born, one of the first things your body had to learn was to synchronize its internal clocks to the light of the world outside. It took weeks, months for some. The circadian rhythm of a newborn is still forming, still learning to read the light, still calibrating to the spinning of the planet beneath them. By the time you were 6 months old, the rhythm had settled. A consolidated sleep window had emerged. The master conductor had taken its place. And it has been keeping time inside you every day, ever since. I want to take you somewhere, for a moment. Somewhere dark and ancient and very, very quiet. Imagine the African savannah, 100,000 years ago. Before cities. Before fire had become domesticated. Before language had fully flowered into story. A small group of humans settles into the grass as the last orange light fades from the sky. They lie close to one another, for warmth, for safety, in the way that all social animals lie close together in the dark. The stars appear. The temperature drops. And one by one, without speaking, without deciding, they close their eyes. The melatonin rising in their blood is chemically identical to the melatonin rising in yours right now. The temperature dropping in their bodies is the same temperature drop happening in your body right now. The slow, rolling delta waves that will begin to move through their brains within the hour are the same waves beginning to form behind your eyes. You are not just a person falling asleep in a room. You are the latest in an unbroken line of sleepers, stretching back through every generation that has ever lived on this earth, all the way to the very beginning. Every ancestor you have ever had felt exactly this. This heaviness. This softening. This slow release of the world. And they all woke up. Melatonin is one of the oldest molecules on Earth. It is found not just in humans, but in algae, in fungi, in plants, in creatures that predate the dinosaurs by hundreds of millions of years. The chemical signal that is moving through you right now has been responding to the darkness of this planet for longer than animals have existed. Something about that feels vast and quiet and right, as though sleep is not something that happens to you, but something you belong to. Even now, as you lie here, your body is not waiting for you to give it permission. It has already begun. The melatonin is already flowing. The temperature has already begun its quiet descent. The kidneys have already slowed. The master conductor has already lifted its baton. All that is asked of you is to stop resisting the tide. Let the earth carry you. It has been doing this for a very long time. It knows exactly what to do. We are still here. The earth is still turning, quietly, beneath you. And your body is still doing what it has always known how to do. You may have drifted a little already, and that is exactly right. There is nowhere else to be. Nothing to catch up on. Whatever is happening in your mind right now, whether it is clear or cloudy, whether thoughts are still moving or whether everything is beginning to soften into something less defined, all of that is welcome here. We are just going to keep going, together, into the night. In part 1, we followed the signal. The fading light. The rising melatonin. The temperature beginning its slow descent. The earth turning, and your body turning with it. Now, we are going somewhere deeper. We are going to walk, very slowly, down the staircase of sleep itself. Step by step. Stage by stage. Into the extraordinary architecture that your brain builds for you every single night. Sleep is not a destination. It is not a place you arrive at and then stay until morning. It is a journey, a series of descents and returns, a cycling through distinct and different states of consciousness, each one with its own landscape, its own biology, its own particular gift. On a typical night, you will make this journey 4 to 6 times. Each cycle lasts roughly 90 minutes. Each one carries you down through the stages, into the deep, and then back up toward the surface, before the descent begins again. A full night of sleep is not one long dive into stillness. It is more like a slow, rhythmic tide. Rising, falling, rising, falling. Each wave a little different from the last. Scientists describe this journey using a simple architecture. 4 stages. A staircase leading down, and then back up. Stage 1. Stage 2. Stage 3. And then REM. Each one a world of its own. Let's walk down, together, one step at a time. The first step is the lightest. Stage 1 sleep lasts only a few minutes, sometimes as few as 1, sometimes as many as 7. It is the threshold between waking and sleeping. The doorway. The moment when the world outside your body begins to lose its sharp edges. Your muscles soften. The tension you have been carrying, in your jaw, in your shoulders, in the long muscles along your spine, begins to release. Not all at once. Slowly. Like a fist, very gradually, unclenching. Your breathing deepens, very slightly. Your heartbeat begins to slow. The eyes, behind your closed lids, begin to move slowly. A gentle, rolling drift. As if they are watching something very far away, moving very slowly, just beyond the edge of perception. In stage 1, the brain shifts from the busy, rapid rhythms of waking, the beta waves of alert thinking, into something slower and more dreamlike. Alpha waves first. The rhythm of a mind at rest, not yet asleep, but no longer fully engaged. The rhythm of closed eyes in a quiet room. The rhythm of letting go. And then, even slower, theta waves begin to appear. 4 to 8 cycles per second. So slow you could almost feel them, if you could feel the inside of your own head. Long, slow, rolling waves of electrical activity, moving through the folds of your brain like a tide coming in on a quiet shore. It is in stage 1, in this soft in-between place, that many people experience something startling. A sudden, full-body jerk. A convulsive twitch that snaps you back to the surface of consciousness with a gasp, sometimes with the vivid, fleeting sensation of falling. It is called a hypnic jerk. And it is almost certainly nothing to worry about. One theory suggests that as the muscles relax during the onset of sleep, the brain misreads the signal. It interprets the sudden release of muscle tension as a loss of balance, a stumble, a fall. And it fires a reflex, an ancient protective impulse, to catch you before you hit the ground. A reflex that may be older than our species. There is something almost endearing about it. The brain, even in the first tender moments of letting go, still trying to keep you safe. Still watching. Still protecting. You can let it rest now. Nothing is falling. Everything is fine. Stage 1 is easily disturbed. A sound, a shift in the light, a thought with too sharp an edge, can bring you back to full wakefulness in an instant. But if the conditions are right, if the room is quiet and the body is warm and the mind is willing, stage 1 does not last long. The staircase continues downward. Stage 2 is where the night truly begins. It is the most abundant stage of sleep. On a full night, you will spend roughly half your total sleep time here. Not in the dramatic depths of stage 3, not in the vivid cinema of REM, but here, in stage 2. In this steady, reliable, generous middle ground, your heart rate drops further. Your breathing settles into a slow, even rhythm. Your body temperature continues its quiet descent. You are no longer on the threshold. You are inside the night now. And something remarkable is happening in your brain. The electroencephalogram, the machine scientists use to watch the brain's electrical activity, would show a relatively quiet signal right now. Slow, steady, the gentle noise of a mind at rest. But every so often, out of that quiet, something extraordinary erupts. A burst of rapid electrical activity, 12 to 15 cycles per second, lasting less than 2 seconds. Gone almost as soon as it appears. Scientists call them sleep spindles. And they are among the most fascinating structures the sleeping brain produces. Sleep spindles are generated in the thalamus, a deep, walnut-sized structure near the center of the brain that acts as a relay station for sensory information. And their primary function, as best we understand it, is extraordinary. They block the world out. When a sleep spindle fires, it actively suppresses the brain's response to incoming sensory information. A sound that might otherwise pull you to the surface, a voice in another room, a car passing outside, is intercepted. Muffled. Held at a distance. The sleeping brain is not passively unaware of the world around it. It is actively, deliberately, building a wall. Spindle by spindle, it is constructing your protection. Which means that even the sound of this voice, even these words drifting into your ears right now, are being gently managed by your sleeping brain. Allowed in just enough to be a soft companion, but held at arm's length, so they cannot pull you fully back to the surface. The brain knows exactly what it is doing. There is one more remarkable thing about sleep spindles worth knowing. The number of sleep spindles a person generates each night is linked to their capacity for learning. People who produce more spindles tend to perform better on memory tests the following day. They absorb new information more efficiently. They learn new motor skills more quickly. Sleep spindles appear to act as a kind of save function for the brain. A brief, brilliant burst of activity, locking in the day's learning, before the descent into deeper rest. Every spindle, a small act of preservation. Sleep spindles are not the only remarkable structure that stage 2 produces. Alongside them, the sleeping brain also generates what scientists call K-complexes. If a sleep spindle is a rapid burst, a K-complex is its opposite. A single, large, slow wave. A sharp downward stroke on the EEG, followed by a slower rise. Like a long, heavy sigh, rendered in electrical activity. K-complexes appear to serve as a stabilizing force. When a minor disturbance arrives, a small sound, a slight shift in temperature, a brief flicker of awareness, the sleeping brain responds with a K-complex. A single, decisive wave that says, "I heard that. I am here. We do not need to wake up." The brain, standing guard, so you do not have to. Stage 2 is not a waiting room between the interesting parts of sleep. It is where the brain does some of its most important quiet work. Sorting. Saving. Protecting. Building the conditions for the deeper descent that is coming. Half of every night is spent here. in this steady, industrious, beautifully ordinary stage. And now, the staircase leads down again. Here. This is where we have been heading. Stage 3 sleep. Slow wave sleep. Deep sleep. The stage that is hardest to reach and hardest to leave. If someone were to gently call your name while you were here, you might not hear them. If a sound played in the room, a sound that would easily wake you in stage 1, you would likely sleep straight through it. The wall the brain has built around you here is thick and very old and very strong. In stage 3, the brain produces its slowest, largest, most powerful waves. Delta waves. Half a cycle to 2 cycles per second. So slow, so vast, that you could almost count them out loud if you tried. 1, 2, 3. These are not the quick flickers of waking thought. These are the deep, slow rhythms of a brain that has set down everything it was carrying and is simply resting. While the delta waves move through your brain in their slow, rolling procession, the body is doing something extraordinary. It is healing itself. Deep sleep is the body's repair shop. The overnight maintenance window. The time when the biological work of restoration, that cannot be done while you are awake and moving and burning energy, finally gets to happen. The pituitary gland, a pea-sized structure at the base of the brain, releases the majority of the body's daily supply of growth hormone during deep sleep. Not just in children, where it drives physical growth. In adults too, where it governs the repair of muscle tissue, the maintenance of bone density, the health of organs, the tone of skin. The fitness you earned in yesterday's movement, the strength your muscles are quietly consolidating, the recovery your body is building, none of it happens in the gym. It happens here. In this darkness. In the deep. Your blood pressure has reached its lowest point of the entire day. Your heart, which has been working since before you were born, since before you had a name, since the very first moment of your existence, is beating at its slowest, most effortless rhythm. Heart rate variability, a measure of the heart's flexibility and health, improves measurably after a night of good deep sleep. The cardiovascular system uses this window to recover, to recalibrate, to prepare for another day. Your heart is resting, right now, as deeply as it ever rests. Skin cells are dividing and regenerating at twice the rate they do during waking hours. The gut lining is repairing itself, the microbiome quietly rebalancing in the slow of the night. The immune system is at its most active, releasing the signaling proteins that coordinate the body's defenses, repairing the small damages of the day, building the quiet army that keeps illness at a distance. Your body right now is not idle. It is the most industrious it will be all day. And then there is the brain itself. While you are awake, your brain is working constantly. Processing. Filtering. Deciding. Remembering. Every waking thought you have, every sensation you process, every decision you make, generates a small amount of metabolic waste. Proteins and byproducts of neural activity that accumulate in the spaces between brain cells as the hours pass. And during deep sleep, something happens to that waste that scientists only discovered in 2013. Something that, when I first learned about it, I found almost too elegant to believe. the brain washes itself. During deep sleep, the brain cells themselves shrink slightly. Not dramatically, by about 60% of their waking volume. And in the space that opens up, cerebrospinal fluid, the clear, clean liquid that surrounds and protects the brain, pulses inward in slow waves. It flows through the channels between cells. It carries away the metabolic waste. And it drains, carrying with it the accumulated debris of the day. This system has a name. The glymphatic system. Named for the glial cells that help facilitate it, and the lymphatic system it resembles. And it is almost entirely inactive while you are awake. It only opens, fully and completely, during sleep. One of the waste products carried away by the glymphatic system is a protein called amyloid beta. You may have heard of amyloid plaques. The toxic buildup that accumulates in the brains of people with Alzheimer's disease. Every night of good deep sleep, the glymphatic system works to flush those proteins away before they can accumulate. Sleep is not just rest for the brain. Sleep is the brain's most important act of self-preservation. Its nightly defense against the slow damage of time. Every night you sleep well, your brain is taking care of itself, cleaning itself, protecting itself, doing the quiet, invisible work that keeps the mind clear. This is not something you have to do. It is something that is happening to you right now as you rest. Deep sleep is also when the brain consolidates the day's most important memories. During waking hours, new memories are held in a structure called the hippocampus. A curved, seahorse-shaped region deep in the temporal lobe. The hippocampus is fast and flexible, able to absorb new information quickly, but its storage space is limited. During sleep, and particularly during deep slow-wave sleep, the hippocampus replays the day's experiences. Like a film editor reviewing footage, it identifies what matters, and transfers it to the cortex for long-term storage. The things you learned today. The face you saw. The name you were told. The route you drove for the first time. The idea that appeared suddenly and felt important. They are being processed right now, being woven into the longer fabric of who you are. A single night of poor sleep can reduce the brain's ability to form new memories by up to 40%. 40%. Which means that every night of good sleep is not just rest for today, it is an investment in who you will be tomorrow. In what you will remember. In what you will be able to do. Sleep does not interrupt your life. Sleep makes your life possible. Deep sleep is most abundant in the first half of the night. The early cycles, the ones happening between roughly 10 in the evening and 2 in the morning for most people, are the richest in slow-wave sleep. The later cycles, the ones closer to dawn, contain less deep sleep and more of the stage we are about to visit. This is one reason why sleep lost at the beginning of the night, those early hours of depth and restoration, cannot be fully recovered by sleeping later. The architecture of the night is not arbitrary. It has a specific, irreplaceable sequence. But first, we surface. Slowly. Gently. Back up through stage 2. A brief, barely conscious moment near the top. And then, the staircase leads somewhere entirely different. REM sleep. Rapid eye movement. Named for the most visible sign of its arrival, the sudden, flickering motion of the eyes beneath closed lids. As if the sleeping person is watching something. As if they are somewhere else entirely. They are. During REM sleep, the brain wakes up. Not fully. Not in the way it wakes up when you open your eyes in the morning. But the EEG during REM looks strikingly similar to the EEG of a fully awake, actively thinking brain. Fast waves. Complex patterns. A mind in motion. And yet the body is completely still. This is REM-atonia. A state of near-complete muscular paralysis that descends over the body during REM sleep. The brainstem actively inhibits the motor neurons, the pathways that carry movement signals from the brain to the muscles. Only the diaphragm continues to work, keeping you breathing. Only the tiny muscles of the eyes and the delicate muscles of the inner ear remain free to move. Everything else is held still. Your body is paralyzed so that your dreaming mind cannot act out what it is experiencing. The brain, even in its most vivid and wild state, is still keeping you safe. Something else extraordinary happens during REM sleep. Something I find more comforting than almost any other fact about sleep. The brain's norepinephrine system completely shuts down. Norepinephrine is the neurochemical most closely associated with stress, with anxiety, with the fight-or-flight response, with the particular quality of tension that accumulates through the hours of a difficult day. During every waking moment of your life, norepinephrine is present in your brain. It is part of the background hum of consciousness. The chemical signature of being alert, of being in the world, of facing whatever the day brings. During REM sleep, it falls completely silent. It is the only time in the entire 24-hour cycle when this happens. The only time. Scientists believe this chemical silence is part of what allows REM sleep to act as a kind of overnight emotional therapy. The brain replays difficult memories, processes charged experiences, revisits the things that troubled or frightened or confused, but does so in the complete absence of the stress neurochemistry that made those experiences painful. It is like being able to open a difficult letter, but feel none of the fear that came with it the first time. The memory is still there, but its sharp edges have been softened. This is why we so often feel differently about things in the morning than we did the night before. Not because the problems have changed, but because the brain has quietly, carefully, done its work. REM sleep episodes grow longer as the night progresses. The first REM period, in the early cycles of the night, may last only 10 minutes. A brief visit to the dreamscape before the descent back into deep sleep. But by the later cycles, by the hours just before dawn, REM periods can last 40, 50, even 60 minutes. Which is why the dreams you remember are almost always the ones that were happening just before you woke up. The final, longest, most vivid episode. The dream you were still inside when the morning found you. Newborn babies spend approximately 50% of their sleep time in REM. Half of every sleeping moment in that vivid, electrically active dreamscape. Scientists believe this extraordinary proportion reflects the pace of early brain development. The infant brain is building itself at a rate that will never again be matched. New connections forming by the millions. New patterns, new pathways, new capacities emerging with every passing hour. And REM sleep, with its intense neural activity, its waves of chemical stimulation, appears to be the fuel for that construction. We are, in the most literal sense, dreamed into existence. The average person dreams for approximately 2 hours every night. 2 hours of vivid, sometimes strange, sometimes frightening, sometimes achingly beautiful inner experience. Most of it forgotten by morning. Most of it dissolving like morning mist the moment consciousness reasserts itself. But it happened. All of it happened. Every night of your life, you have been the author of 2 hours of experience that existed nowhere else in the universe. And then, the cycle completes. From the threshold of stage 1, down through the gathering peace of stage 2, into the deep restoration of slow-wave sleep, back up, and into the strange, quiet brilliance of REM. 90 minutes. A complete revolution. And then, almost imperceptibly, the whole staircase begins again. 4 to 6 times tonight, this journey will repeat. Each cycle slightly different from the last. The early ones richer in deep sleep, the later ones weighted toward REM, the dream work of the night deepening as dawn approaches. You will not be aware of any of it. You will not feel the transitions. You will not sense yourself rising and descending. You will simply be somewhere else. And then you will be somewhere else again. And your brain, your quiet, extraordinary, endlessly capable brain, will be doing what it has always known how to do. There is a detail I keep returning to in the quiet. The sleep spindles of stage 2, those brief bursts of electrical brilliance that block the world out, the brain actively choosing to keep you here, inside the night, safe from the interruptions of the world outside. Every spindle is a small act of care. The brain, doing for you what you have never had to ask it to do. Keeping the world at bay. Holding the door closed. So you can rest. You are inside the architecture now. The staircase is beneath you. The delta waves are waiting in the deep. Let yourself go down. Still here. Still with you. The night is deep now. If you have been drifting in and out, carried by the current of sleep and then nudged gently back toward the surface, that is exactly as it should be. There is no wrong way to be here. The tide moves as it moves. And we are still going, together, further into the dark. In part 2, we walked down the staircase. We visited each stage of sleep in turn. We learned what the brain does while the world thinks it is simply resting. Now, we are going to do something different. We are going to zoom out. Past the room you are lying in. Past the walls of the building. Past the city or the town or the quiet countryside beyond your window. We are going to look at the whole sleeping earth. Right now, while you lie here, the earth is covered in sleeping things. On every continent. In every ocean. In the canopy of every forest and the floor of every sea. Creatures of every shape and size, breathing slowly, hearts beating quietly, eyes closed or open or somewhere in between, yielding, each in their own way, to the ancient pull of rest. Sleep is not a human invention. It is not a habit or a cultural practice or a luxury of the safe and the sheltered. It is a biological imperative as old as life itself, as universal as hunger, as non-negotiable as breath, and the ways in which different creatures have solved the problem of sleep, the extraordinary adaptations that allow life to rest in a world that never stops being dangerous, are among the most beautiful and strange facts in all of natural history. Let me take you to them. Somewhere in a dark ocean right now, a dolphin is sleeping. Not the way you sleep. Not the way any land animal sleeps. The dolphin closes one eye and keeps the other open. One hemisphere of its brain enters the slow, restorative rhythms of sleep, while the other hemisphere remains fully awake, alert, watching, listening to the water. After a while, the hemispheres switch. The sleeping side wakes. The waking side rests. Scientists call this unihemispheric sleep, and it solves a problem that no land animal has to face. A dolphin that falls fully unconscious, the way you and I do, would drown. It breathes air. It must surface. It must keep moving. And so evolution found another way. A solution so elegant, so quietly ingenious, that it has persisted for millions of years. Half a brain resting at a time, sleeping and waking simultaneously, moving through the ocean and dreaming through it all at once. Whales do something similar. Sperm whales have been observed floating vertically near the ocean surface, motionless, in groups. Their great bodies hanging still in the water like drifting logs. Their breath slow and infrequent. They appear to sleep in short bursts of around 10 to 15 minutes, surfacing periodically without fully waking, before sinking back into their vertical stillness. Imagine that image for a moment. A group of the largest brained animals on Earth, floating silently in the darkness of the deep ocean, in the middle of the night, dreaming whatever it is that whales dream. Now come closer to the surface, to the cold, kelp-rich waters of the Pacific coast. Sea otters cannot sleep on land the way most mammals do. They live almost entirely in the water. And the water, of course, moves. So before a sea otter sleeps, it finds a bed of kelp. Long, rubbery, anchored to the seafloor below. It rolls itself into the kelp, wrapping the long strands around its body like a blanket, like a tether, so that the current cannot carry it away while it rests. And when sea otters sleep in groups, which they often do, they do something else. They reach out and hold each other's paws. A group of sleeping sea otters floating on their backs, wrapped in kelp, holding hands in the dark water, is called a raft. They do it so they do not drift apart while they sleep, so that when they wake, they are still together. I have always loved that. The instinct, even in sleep, even in the complete unconsciousness of deep rest, to hold on to the ones you love. To make sure that when morning comes, you are still side by side. Now look up. Into the sky above the ocean. There are birds up there right now that have not touched land in months. The albatross is one of the great wanderers of the natural world. It spends the majority of its life airborne, riding the wind currents above the southern oceans for months at a time. Its wingspan can reach 3.5 meters, the widest of any living bird. It glides more than it flaps, using the wind itself as fuel, covering vast distances with almost no effort. And it sleeps while it flies. Not for long stretches. In short bursts, seconds or minutes at a time, one hemisphere resting while the other navigates. The same elegant solution as the dolphin, solved independently, in an entirely different body, in an entirely different world. The albatross trusts the wind to carry it while it rests. It has learned, over millions of years of evolution, that the air is safe enough to sleep in. Frigate birds go further still. During long transoceanic flights, frigate birds have been recorded sleeping while soaring on thermal updrafts, rising on columns of warm air, their bodies perfectly still, their wings barely moving. They catch sleep wherever the sky allows it. Brief, stolen, high above the dark water below. And then there are the migratory birds. Species like the white-crowned sparrow, tiny, weighing less than a small plum, that fly thousands of kilometers each spring and autumn. During migration season, these birds suppress their need for sleep almost entirely. They remain alert for days at a time, flying through the night, navigating by the stars, barely resting. How they do this without the cognitive collapse that would destroy a sleep-deprived human in days, is a question scientists are still working to answer. The sparrow carries a mystery inside its small, determined body. A mystery the size of a plum. Come down from the sky. Back to the land. Back to the dark plains and the quiet forests where the large animals move slowly through the night. Elephants are among the most sleep-deprived mammals on Earth. In the wild, African elephants sleep for only 2 to 4 hours per night. The least of any land mammal that has been carefully studied. They spend the rest of the night moving slowly through their territory, grazing, drinking, tending to the needs of their herd. And they only lie down for deep sleep once every few days. Because for an elephant, lying down is a significant commitment. A body that large, pressed against the ground, takes time to rise. And on the open plain, time is vulnerability. So elephants take most of their sleep standing. Light sleep, brief and alert, weight shifting slowly from one foot to another, never fully surrendering to the dark. But when they do lie down, when the herd is safe and the night is deep and the ground is soft enough, they sleep on their sides. Great, warm, breathing flanks rising and falling in the dark. And sometimes, the matriarch and the younger elephants will lie close together. The calves tucked against the warm bulk of their mothers. Even elephants, in their rare moments of deep rest, choose not to be alone. The giraffe sleeps for less than 2 hours a night. In short increments. 5 minutes here. 10 minutes there. Spread across the darkness in careful fragments. When a giraffe lies down for deep sleep, it folds its extraordinary legs beneath it and curls its long neck back, resting its head on its own hindquarters. A posture so specific, so deliberate, that it looks almost ceremonial. But it holds this position for only minutes at a time. Because a giraffe lying down cannot rise quickly. And the African savanna does not reward slowness. And so the giraffe takes what it can. A few stolen minutes of depth, then back to the long, watchful, standing night. Horses are similar. Their legs contain a remarkable mechanism called a stay apparatus, a system of tendons and ligaments that can lock the joints in a standing position, allowing the muscles to relax without the horse collapsing. A horse can doze, standing, weight resting on 3 legs, one hip dropped, lower lip loose and soft, in a light, flickering sleep that could dissolve into wakefulness in an instant. The body, finding rest within the constraints of a dangerous world. Making peace with the need for vigilance. Sleeping, but never quite letting go of the ground. And then, at the other end of the spectrum entirely, there is the brown bat. The brown bat sleeps for nearly 20 hours a day. 20 hours. Hanging upside down in the dark of a cave or a roof hollow or a hollow tree, wrapped in its own wings like a small, breathing parcel, spending the vast majority of its existence in sleep. Its heart rate during torpor, the deep sleep-adjacent state it enters in colder months, can fall from 400 beats per minute while flying, to as few as 11 beats per minute at rest. 11 beats per minute. The body slowing to the very edge of stillness, conserving every possible calorie, dreaming whatever small, dark, upside-down dreams bats dream, while the world outside continues without them. Sleep is not only for the large. It belongs to the small as well. Bees sleep. At the end of a long day of foraging, a honeybee will find a quiet corner of the hive, or sometimes a flower, and enter a state of rest that is measurably different from simple inactivity. Its antennae droop. Its body temperature drops. Its response is slow. And tired bees make mistakes. The waggle dance, the extraordinary, precise figure-8 movement that a foraging bee uses to communicate the exact direction and distance of a food source to her hive mates, becomes less accurate after sleep deprivation. The angles drift. The timing wavers. The information becomes less reliable. Sleep deprivation in a bee does not just make her tired. It makes her a less capable communicator, a less reliable member of her community. Even in a creature with a brain the size of a sesame seed, the cost of lost sleep is real. Fish rest too, though they cannot close their eyes. They have no eyelids. They hover, nearly motionless, in the water, their movements slowing, their responses dulling, in a reduced activity state that scientists believe is functionally equivalent to sleep. Some fish wedge themselves into crevices in the rock. Some drift near the surface. Some, like the parrotfish, secrete a mucus cocoon around themselves before resting. A soft, transparent sleeping bag that may help mask their scent from predators in the night. Even in sleep, the parrotfish is resourceful. And then there is the jellyfish. A creature with no brain. No central nervous system. No spine. No heart. A body that is 95% water, held together by the most minimal biological scaffolding imaginable. Scientists studying the Cassiopeia jellyfish, a species that rests upside down on the seafloor, its tentacles waving softly upward in the current, observed something extraordinary. At night, the jellyfish pulsed more slowly. Its characteristic bell contractions, the rhythmic squeeze and release that drives it through the water, slowed measurably in the dark hours. And when researchers disturbed the jellyfish during its slow period, it showed a delayed response, a grogginess, a reluctance to resume full activity. It also appeared to need more recovery time if the slow period was interrupted. In other words, the jellyfish showed sleep pressure, the biological drive to rest that accumulates with wakefulness and is only relieved by sleep. A creature with no brain needs sleep, which means that sleep may predate the brain itself. That the need for rest, this deep, ancient, cellular requirement for a period of reduced activity and recovery, emerged in life before nervous systems existed, before neurons, before thought. Sleep is not something the brain invented. The brain was built around sleep. Step outside for a moment, in your mind, into the night air, into the stillness beyond your walls. Look at the trees. They are sleeping. Using laser scanning technology, scientists have measured the precise position of tree branches at different times of day and night. And what they found, in birch trees in Finland and Austria, was that the branches droop at night by as much as 10 centimeters. The whole canopy slowly lowering itself in the dark. The tree's metabolism slows. Its water pressure drops. The turgor that holds the branches upright during the day relaxes. And the tree, imperceptibly, sinks into its nightly rest. By sunrise, the branches have risen again, restored by the light, ready for another day. The tree outside your window right now is doing exactly this. Breathing slowly, branches hanging a little lower than they will by morning. Its own circadian clock ticking through the dark in the language of sap and cellulose and chlorophyll. Waiting, as you are waiting, for the light to return. So here is what I want you to hold as you rest. Right now, at this exact moment, you are part of the largest community on Earth. Larger than any nation. Larger than any religion. Larger than any idea that human beings have ever organized themselves around. The community of sleeping things. Right now, the dolphins are drifting through dark water with one eye open. The sea otters are holding paws in the kelp. The elephants are standing in the quiet of the savannah, dreaming their slow, grey dreams. The bats are hanging upside down in their caves, hearts barely beating. The bees have folded their wings in the dark of the hive. The jellyfish are pulsing slowly on the seafloor. The trees are breathing, branches drooping, sap moving at a murmur. And you are here, lying down, warm, safe, breathing slowly. One of billions of living things resting together on a spinning planet in the dark. You are never as alone as the quiet of the night might suggest. The whole living world is here with you, resting, restoring, waiting together for the light. There is one more thing worth knowing about sleep tonight. Something that, in a strange way, I find deeply comforting. Despite everything we have explored tonight, despite all the extraordinary science and the glymphatic systems and the delta waves and the sleep spindles and the dreaming dolphins, scientists still do not fully understand why we sleep. Not completely. Not with one unified, settled, agreed-upon theory. They know it is essential. They know it serves multiple purposes simultaneously. They know the body cannot survive without it. In laboratory animals, total sleep deprivation is fatal within weeks, faster, in some studies, than starvation. And yet the precise mechanism, the deepest, most fundamental reason why every living thing on Earth must periodically lose consciousness and become vulnerable, is still not entirely known. I find that beautiful. In a world where almost everything has been measured and mapped and explained and categorized, sleep remains, in part, a mystery. Something we all do. Something we cannot survive without. Something that has been happening on this planet for hundreds of millions of years. And we are still learning what it is. You are participating right now in one of the great unsolved wonders of biology. Not as a subject. Not as a patient. Not as a problem to be solved. Simply as a living thing, doing what living things do, in the dark. Rest now. We have more to explore, in the quiet that follows. We are still here. You and I. In the dark. The night is very deep now. If you have been sleeping, truly sleeping, then perhaps these words are reaching you from somewhere far away. A soft sound at the edge of a dream. A voice you half recognize, carrying you forward, not waking you, just keeping you company in the deep. And if you are still at the surface, still drifting, still finding your way down, that is all right too. There is no hurry. The night is long. The current is patient. We have one last journey to make together. For most of human history, sleep was not a biological process to be optimized. It was a sacred act. A threshold. A doorway. The ancient Egyptians believed that the god of sleep, Shu, held the world in a gentle stillness each night. That sleep was not the absence of life, but a different kind of life. A parallel existence, running alongside the waking world, governed by different rules, accessible through the simple act of closing one's eyes. They built temples for it. Not metaphorically. Literally. Dedicated sanctuaries where the sick and the troubled would come to sleep, hoping that the gods would send healing visions in the night. The practice was called incubation, from the Latin incuba, to lie upon. To sleep upon sacred ground and wait for what the darkness might bring. The Greeks had their own dream temples, called Asclepia, dedicated to Asclepius, the god of medicine. People would travel from distant cities, on foot, across mountains and plains, to sleep in the sacred hall and receive a dream that might cure them. Priests would interpret the dreams. Prescriptions would be written based on what was seen in sleep. Healings were recorded on stone tablets, some of which survive to this day. For thousands of years, across dozens of civilizations, sleep was understood to be a place where something important happened. Something that could not happen in the daylight. Something that required the dark, and the quiet, and the particular vulnerability of a body lying still. The Romans built dream temples too. As did the Mesopotamians, the Japanese, the indigenous cultures of the Americas. Across every continent, in every era of recorded history, human beings have understood that sleep is not simply the switching off of consciousness. It is an entry into another kind of knowing. I have always found something deeply moving about those ancient pilgrims. walking for days across difficult terrain, carrying their suffering, to lie down on a stone floor in a temple and trust that the night would offer something the day could not. They were not wrong. We now understand, in the language of neuroscience rather than theology, that sleep does precisely what those pilgrims hoped it would. It heals the body. It restores the mind. It softens the sharp edges of pain and grief and fear. It gives the brain a space to process what the waking hours are too loud and too bright and too relentless to allow. The temple is still here. You are lying in it right now. We live in a world that treats sleep as optional, as something to be minimized, compressed, scheduled around the things that seem more important. There is a particular kind of pride that has crept into modern life around not sleeping, around managing on less, around being so busy, so productive, so relentlessly engaged with the demands of the waking world that sleep becomes a concession rather than a foundation. But the body keeps its own accounts, and it does not negotiate. In 1964, a 17-year-old student in San Diego named Randy Gardner decided to break the world record for the longest time a human had remained awake. He stayed awake for 11 days and 25 minutes, 264 hours. By the second day, his eyes could no longer focus. By the third, he was struggling to identify objects by touch alone. By the fourth, he was experiencing hallucinations. By the final days, he could not perform simple arithmetic. He would begin a sentence and forget, mid-word, what he had intended to say. He recovered. He slept for 14 hours on the first night, and largely returned to normal within days. The young brain is resilient in ways the older brain is not. But his experience illustrated, in vivid and uncomfortable detail, how quickly the machinery of the mind begins to fail without the maintenance that only sleep provides. Fewer than 1% of human beings carry a genetic mutation that allows them to genuinely thrive on 6 hours of sleep or less. 1%. The rest of us, the 99%, need 7 to 9 hours. Not as an ideal, not as a luxury, as a biological requirement as non-negotiable as water. The people who believe they have trained themselves to function well on less, have in most cases simply stopped noticing how impaired they are. The brain's capacity for self-assessment is among the first casualties of sleep deprivation. You lose the ability to perceive your own deficits, while simultaneously developing those deficits. You do not know what you are missing, because sleep deprivation takes that knowledge first. Which means that tonight, whatever brought you here, whatever accumulated tiredness carried you to this place of lying down and letting go, you are not being weak. You are being wise. You are giving your body what it has been asking for. And your body, which has been extraordinarily patient with you, is grateful. While you sleep tonight, your body is doing something more generous than you may realize. Leptin, the hormone that signals fullness and satiety, rises during sleep. Ghrelin, the hormone that signals hunger, falls. A night of good sleep quietly recalibrates your appetite. It makes the next day a little easier to navigate. A little less pulled toward the things that feel comforting but leave you hollow. One poor night of sleep reverses this. Ghrelin rises. Leptin falls. The body, running on deficit, reaches for quick energy, reaches for sugar and salt and the short, bright satisfaction of things that do not truly nourish. Your choices tomorrow will be shaped by the quality of tonight. In ways you will never consciously notice, but your body will know. Testosterone, which governs energy and mood and muscle maintenance in both men and women, is primarily produced during sleep. A week of shortened sleep can reduce testosterone levels by 10 to 15%. The equivalent of aging 10 years in 7 days. But a night of good sleep begins restoring it immediately. The body does not hold grudges. It simply responds to what it is given. Your skin is regenerating twice as fast right now as it does during your waking hours. Collagen, the structural protein that gives skin its firmness and resilience, is being synthesized at an accelerated rate. The small damages of exposure and expression and the passage of time through a day are being quietly repaired. The phrase beauty sleep was coined long before anyone understood why it was true. But it is true. Measurably, demonstrably, biologically true. Sleep is not vanity. It is maintenance. It is the body keeping its own house in order, in the only window of time it has to do so without interruption. And your immune system, right now, at its most active. The cytokines are flowing. The natural killer cells are patrolling. The antibodies that will make you more resistant to what the world might bring tomorrow are being consolidated and strengthened in the quiet chemistry of this night. Every hour of sleep you give yourself tonight is an investment in a version of tomorrow that is a little stronger, a little more defended, a little more capable of meeting what comes. There is one more gift that sleep gives that I want to offer you before we go deeper. Whatever happened today, whatever was difficult or heavy or unresolved, whatever you are still turning over in the back of your mind even now, sleep will work on it. Not by erasing it, not by solving it, but by changing your relationship to it. Remember what we learned about REM sleep in part 2. The norepinephrine system, the brain's stress chemistry, falls completely silent during REM. And in that chemical quiet, the brain revisits the day's difficult experiences. It processes them. It files them. It finds the meaning and the pattern and the context that the raw emotion of the waking hours would not allow. The thing that frightened you today will be a little less frightening tomorrow morning. The thing that hurt will still be there, but a little softer. A little further away. A little more held within the larger story of who you are and what you have survived. There is a reason the oldest advice in the world for difficult emotions is to sleep on it. Not because sleep makes problems disappear, but because sleep changes the mind that faces them. The mind that wakes tomorrow, if it has slept well, is more patient than the one that closed its eyes tonight. More resourceful. More able to hold complexity without being overwhelmed by it. More able to find the small openings in difficult situations and move through them. So if there is something sitting with you tonight, something unfinished or uncertain or painful, you do not need to solve it right now. You do not need to figure it out in the dark. You can set it down. Your sleeping brain will hold it for you, turn it gently in the quiet, and hand it back to you in the morning, slightly changed. Slightly more manageable. slightly more yours. Sleep changes across a lifetime. Not in its importance, which remains constant from birth to old age, but in its shape, its texture, the way it arrives and the way it feels. Think of yourself as a newborn. 14 to 17 hours of sleep every day. Polyphasic, scattered across the full 24 hours in short, frequent bursts. 50% of that sleep in the vivid electrical storm of REM, the dreaming brain building itself, wiring itself, reaching toward the complexity it will one day carry. Every version of you that exists now, every memory and habit and capacity and love, was constructed in part during those early sleeping hours. You were dreamed into the person you became. Think of yourself as a teenager. The circadian rhythm shifting 2 to 3 hours later than it was in childhood. A genuine biological change. The pineal gland delaying its melatonin release until later in the evening, making early rising feel not just difficult but actively against the grain of the body's chemistry. The teenager lying awake at 11, at midnight, struggling to wake at 7, is not being difficult. They are navigating a biological transition as real and as involuntary as a growth spurt. And they need more sleep than almost anyone. 9 to 10 hours. A brain still actively constructing itself. Still laying the long fibers of the prefrontal cortex that will not fully mature until the mid-20s. Think of yourself now. Whatever age you are. Whatever the accumulated history of your nights, the good ones and the broken ones and the ones you cannot remember and the ones you will never forget. Your body still knows how to do this. It has always known. Even after the worst nights, even after the weeks when sleep felt like something that happened to other people, the architecture is still there. The circadian clock is still ticking. The pineal gland is still waiting for the dark. The delta waves are still available, still waiting in the deep, for the moment you stop resisting and let the tide carry you down. And think of yourself old. Not with dread. With gentleness. Sleep becomes lighter with age. The deep stage is shorter. The night more fragmented. The pineal gland gradually calcifying, producing less melatonin, making the signal a little quieter. But the need never diminishes. The body wants to sleep just as much at 80 as it did at 20. It simply becomes harder for the aging brain to generate the depth it needs. Which means that every night of good sleep, at any age, is a gift. A small miracle of timing and chemistry and the earth still turning in exactly the right direction. We have traveled a long way tonight. Through the circadian clock and the melatonin and the falling temperature. Through the staircase of the sleep stages and the extraordinary repair work of the deep. Through the sleeping dolphins and the dreaming bees and the drooping trees and the ancient dream temples of people who understood, long before science confirmed it, that sleep was something worth honoring. And yet, for all of that knowledge, for all the EEGs and the brain scans and the decades of careful research, the deepest question remains unanswered. Why does consciousness have to stop? The brain could theoretically do its cleaning while you were awake. The glymphatic system could theoretically run in the background of consciousness the way other biological processes do. Memory consolidation could theoretically happen without the loss of awareness. But it doesn't. It never has. not in any creature, not in any species, not in any arrangement of neurons that evolution has ever produced. Something about sleep, something about the specific quality of the unconscious state, is apparently irreplaceable. Something that cannot be replicated in wakefulness. Something that requires the temporary dissolution of the self. Some scientists have suggested that sleep is the price of a complex brain. That the more sophisticated the neural architecture, the more maintenance it requires, and the more completely it must be taken offline to receive it. Others suggest that the loss of consciousness during sleep may itself be functional. That the resting self, the quiet, the absence of the relentless narrating voice of waking awareness, may be essential to the kinds of memory processing and emotional integration that sleep provides. That you need to be gone in order for the work to be done. And there are researchers who believe the deepest answer is still waiting to be found. That the full picture of why sleep exists, what it is doing at the most fundamental level of biology, will require new ways of thinking that we have not yet developed. That sleep is still ahead of us, in some sense. Still keeping its deepest secrets. I find that one of the most calming thoughts I know. That every night, every single human being on Earth enters a state that science has not yet fully explained. That we all cross the same threshold into the same mystery. The Nobel laureates and the newborns. The ancient pharaohs and the teenagers sleeping late on a Saturday morning. The worried and the peaceful, the grieving and the content. All of us, every night, going somewhere that no one completely understands. And all of us, coming back. You have been here before. Every night of your life, you have crossed this threshold. Every night, without fail, without instruction, without effort. Your body has done this thousands of times. It knows the way. Right now, your brain is beginning to produce the slow waves. Not forcing them. Not manufacturing them on demand. Simply allowing them to emerge from the conditions you have created by lying still, by breathing slowly, by letting the world outside the room become less important than the world inside the dark behind your eyes. The delta waves are not dramatic. They do not announce themselves. They simply arrive. Slowly. One at a time. Like long, low swells moving through deep water. Half a cycle per second. One per second. Vast, unhurried, ancient rhythms, moving through the folds of your brain, carrying you somewhere beneath thought, beneath memory, beneath the small, insistent voice that narrates the hours of the day. Your body is being repaired right now. Your brain is cleaning itself. Your heart is resting at its lowest and most peaceful rhythm. Your memories are being woven into their permanent home. Your immune system is keeping watch. You do not need to do anything for any of this to happen. It is already happening. It has been happening your entire life. Somewhere out there, on a continent on the other side of the world, a person is waking up right now. They are stretching, blinking at the light, coming back from wherever they were. And here you are, going toward it. The earth keeps turning. The light chases the dark around the planet, forever, without pause, without rest. And life, all life, moves with it. Waking and sleeping. sleeping and waking. In the ancient, unbroken rhythm that has governed every living thing since the first cell divided in the primordial dark. Your ancestors slept on the same earth you are sleeping on tonight. Under different stars, in different shelters, in different centuries, but with the same biology. The same melatonin rising in the dark. The same temperature falling. The same slow waves building in the deep of the night. The same release. The same surrender. The same ancient, wordless trust. You are not alone in this. You have never been alone in this. Let the weight of the day go now. Let your body be heavy. Let your mind grow soft. The deep, slow waves are waiting for you. They have always been waiting. Your body knows the way down. The earth is turning. The whole sleeping world is here with you. It is good to be here. Go. Sleep.